Hi, my name is McKenna Blanthorne. In this video, we're going to be creating a heat transfer project. Go ahead and grab your supplies and let's get crafting along. Let's go ahead and get started in our Silhouette software. I opened up my Silhouette Studio software, and this is the default settings that it opens to. I'm using the Cameo 4 machine today, so I don't necessarily need to change any of my machine settings, but I will show you how to do so if you're using a different machine or if you used a different machine last time and it opened up different. So you just come up here to the page setup window. If you don't already have the page setup window open, you just click this little page button up here and it will open. And then we're just going to go down order 1, 2, 3, 4. So first we need to select the machine that we're using. You'll see a drop-down menu when you click it that you can select the machine. Then you can choose the feed type, which is just going to be auto. The cutting mat, we are using the auto setting, which is the Cameo. But if you're using a smaller cutting mat or a bigger machine, you can select that as well. And then we are going to be using a 12 by 12 mat as well. So we are not going to change the media size for now. What we're going to do in today's video is create a shirt for the birthday kid of this jungle themed birthday party. We're going to be taking a couple different designs from our library to do so, but the first thing that we need to do is we need to create a visual template in Silhouette Studio of the size that we want our design to be. The way that we're going to do that is we're going to use the drawing tool up here, and we're going to select the rectangle. I'm going to draw a small rectangle, and then I'm going to come up here to the width and height bar, and I'm going to change that to be about 5 inches wide and 5 inches tall. And I actually didn't unlock this aspect ratio button, so I need to make sure that I unlock this aspect ratio, and then I can create the exact size box that I want. The reason that I chose to make my box 5 inches by 5 inches is because I'm using a very small children's shirt. It's about a toddler size shirt. And so I just took a ruler and I measured the width that my design can be. And I just don't want my design to exceed that width. So that's where I got my 5 by 5. If you're using a medium-sized child's shirt, like an 8'10" or something like that, I would recommend about 8 inches. So 5 inches was a good size for me, so I'm just going to go ahead and pull this over here in the corner, and then we're going to open our designs from the library so that we can fit these designs inside of our box. So we just made this 5 by 5 rectangle, and something that I want to do so we can see our colors correctly on the rectangle is I'm going to go ahead and use the fill panel, which is this little art palette over here. I'm going to click it, and then I'm going to select a color that's similar to the color of my shirt. And I'm using like a teal blue shirt, so I picked this color. And this is something you can do to just change any of the designs, the colors of the designs in your project. You don't have to do it, it's optional, but I like to do it to get a good preview of what my design is going to look like with all of the colors. Now we're going to go ahead and bring our designs into our project. So we're going to come up to the library tab, which is in the upper right hand corner. It's the third blue tab. So we're going to click that, and we can see that all of our designs in our library pop up. So we're going to go ahead and just sort through our designs. These are all the designs that come free with your machine, but I just want to find our jungle designs for this specific party, so I'm just going to start typing jungle, and they pop up. So we can see that these are the designs that we're going to be using in today's project. We're not going to be using all of them. Some of them we're using in the other video series, but we are going to be using this wild child design and then our leaf designs. So we just need to go ahead and double click these, and they'll open up in a separate window, not the window that we're doing our project in. But I'm going to go ahead and open all 3 designs, just in the same process, library, and then double clicking the design. And you will notice that these are not grouped together. We are actually not using all 4 of each group of leaves in this project. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete the leaves that I'm not going to use. I'm going to use these 2. And the way that I deleted them is I just clicked it and then I pressed delete, the delete key on my keyboard. So I'm going to go ahead and group these two designs to move them into our original design. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a rectangle with my mouse over the two designs, and then I'm going to right click and select group, and then I'm going to right click and select copy, and then I can close this design because I don't need it anymore. And I'm going to go to my original design and I'm going to right click and click paste. And you'll see that these open up. They're a bit bigger than we want them for now, but we're not going to worry about that right now. We'll fix that in a few minutes. So now we're just going to repeat that same process with our other two designs. The leaves, I'm not going to use this leaf, so I just select it and then click delete on my keyboard, and I'm not going to use this one either, so I select it and click delete. Now I can just draw a rectangle over my two designs. I can right click and select group, and then I will right click and copy. And then I will come over here to my project and I will right click and paste. I'm just going to drag these over to the side again. We can close the green leaves document. And then the wild child, we're not going to delete any of this obviously, so all we need to do is draw a rectangle over the top. We will right click and group that together, and right click and copy, close this document, and then right click and paste. Something that I wanted to mention as well is if you feel like this is a little bit too fast for you, you can always pause this video, you can rewatch certain parts. I will try and repeat the steps that we're doing, but if you feel like it's a little bit too fast, just go ahead and pause it and just rewatch the steps that you might be confused about. So now what we need to do, obviously these do not fit in our 5x5 circle. So I'm going to now what we need to do is we need to resize these designs to fit inside of our 5x5 circle. First, I would like to create the design that I'm going to make, and then we will group that design all together, and then we'll size it down to fit in the 5x5 circle. So I want this wild child to be in the middle, but then I would love to have some of my leaves overlapping the design in the four corners. So the way that we're going to do that is we are now going to ungroup our leaves. So we can do this at the same time for both groups of leaves. So I'm going to click one leaf, and then I'm going to click the other leaf, and I'm going to right click and select ungroup. At this point, I can move my leaves around and put them where I would like to have them. So I'm just going to put one leaf in each corner. So I'm going to put this one over here. I like to have my project kind of the leaves facing inward. You don't have to do that. That's just my personal preference, rather than having this leaf over here and this one over here where they face outward. So I like to have them pointing inwards towards the design. And then this leaf right here is pointing in, and I'd love to have it pointing out. So I'm just going to use this green dot up here at the top. After I've clicked my leaf to select it, I can just rotate it so that it's pointing outward. Awesome. So here is our project. One tool that I would love to show you is how to line up these leaves exactly and these leaves. So the way that we do that is we click one leaf and then we click the other leaf. And then we're going to come up to this little bar with the rectangles on it. And this just makes it so we can align everything together. And I want to align everything from the bottom, so I'm just going to click the Align Bottom button. And it barely moved because it was really, really close to being completely aligned. But that's all we have to do for that. And then we're just going to repeat the same step. We're going to select both of those, and then we're going to align from the top. And I think I failed to mention that the way that you select two items at once is you click one and then you hold down the Shift key and click the other one, and then you can select more than one item. Now we're going to group our green leaves together. So we're going to click one, hold down Shift, and click the other, and then we're going to right click and group those together. And now we're going to do that for our bottom leaves. Click one, hold down Shift, and then right click and group them. And then we're just going to center all three of these together, the light green leaves, the dark green leaves, and the wild child. So I'm going to draw a rectangle over everything, and then I'm going to use my Align tool, and I'm going to click the Align Center. And you can see that everything just kind of snaps into place right there. Perfect. So now we need to just group this project together. So I'm going to draw a rectangle over the whole thing, right-click, and select Group. At this point, we can go ahead and resize it into our 5x5 circle now. The easiest way to do this, you can resize by dragging the corners, and everything will resize at the same ratio. Or we can just come back up here to our width and height and make sure that the aspect ratio is locked for this one. And we're just going to make the width 5 inches. And when we do that, it made the height 5.1, which is okay because it doesn't have to fit exactly inside your square height-wise, as long as it fits inside your square width-wise. So this is a fun digital preview of what our project is going to look like. I'm going to zoom in so you can see it a little bit better. And the way that I zoom in is I just use these two little magnifying glasses up at the top. And then you can pan through Silhouette Studio by holding down your Shift key and dragging. So this is what it's going to look like when we're all done on our shirt. It's a super fun design. Your child is going to love this project. So now what we need to do is prepare this design to cut. And since we are making this design out of heat transfer, we need to mirror the project. And that's because you cut heat transfer on the back side. So you'll flip it over to iron it onto your item that you're using. And so if you don't mirror it, your words are going to be backwards. So we need to do that, but Silhouette Studio makes it really easy for us to do that. The thing that I'm going to do first is I'm just going to zoom out by pressing my magnifying glass just so you can see a little bit better. And then I'm going to create a copy of this whole project by drawing a rectangle over the top and then holding down the Option or Alt key, depending on which computer you're using, and then just dragging it. You can also just select your design and then right-click and select Copy, and then right-click and select Paste. That's another option. Oh, I didn't select the whole design. But you can select the whole design, and then you can right-click and select Copy, and then right-click and select Paste. So that's another option if you don't just want to hold down the Option or Alt key and drag. So I'm just going to leave this version of the design by itself over here. We don't need to change anything about it. I just want to save the design as is. And then for this part of the design, we don't need the shirt. So we can go ahead and delete that rectangle in the back. And then I'm just going to select our design, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to select Flip Horizontally. And you can see that it just mirrors everything, so that everything's backwards to us right now, but once we cut it on our heat transfer, on the back side of our heat transfer, it will all look correct. At this point, we can just ungroup our three designs. So we have our dark green leaves, our light green leaves, and our wild child letters, and we can go ahead and get this ready to cut. In today's project, we're going to be using 3 different colors of heat transfer, and I'm going to show you how to prepare these materials so that you can cut all 3 pieces at once on your Silhouette mat. I'm going to use a cutter to cut my heat transfer, but if you don't have a cutter, you can just use scissors, and that's a great option too. So I'm just going to go ahead and open up each of these. So this one's already open. I know that I'm going to look at Silhouette Studio for reference, and my dark green color, the piece that I need is 5 inches by 2 inches tall. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this so it's about 2 inches, and you can just eyeball it. You don't have to cut exactly. Obviously, if you're using scissors, you're not going to be able to cut it exactly. So I'm just going to go over the top a few times so it's a good size piece. Perfect, and then I'm just going to set my green piece to the side right here. This scrap I'm going to store for a different small heat transfer project. And then my black one has some tape right here, so I'm just going to go ahead and pull that tape off. And the black piece that I need is a little bit taller. It's going to be 3 inches tall and about 4 inches wide. So I'm just going to make it a little bit taller. And then our light green is 5 inches wide and 2.2 inches tall. So it's about the same size as the dark green one. If you don't want to cut smaller pieces, you don't have to. I like to show how to cut small pieces so that if you have a box of vinyl scraps or heat transfer scraps, you can use this method. But if you'd like to cut matless, there's other videos on the channel and even in this series that show how you can do that as well. All right, so here's our pieces that we're going to use today. And then I'm just going to put my cutter away, and then I'm going to pull out our silhouette mat. So this is what the mat looks like when you take it out of the box. It has this nice blue cover on top of it to keep it from getting dirty and to keep it sticky for longer. So just make sure that you keep this cover for storage always. So you just peel off this blue piece. And then like I mentioned with heat transfer, you actually cut it on the back side. So it kind of has this sheen plastic front side. We're using smooth heat transfer today. And then the back side, you flip it over and it's dull. And we're going to be using the dull side to cut today. And the way that I'm going to do this is I'm just going to line up this with the back, or with the corner. And then we're going to cut the black in the bottom corner. And I actually don't think that we're going to have room to cut this dark green piece. Let's see, it's 5 inches wide and this one is 3 inches wide. So we do have room. We just need to cut down our piece. I estimated a little bit large. So I'm going to line this up in the bottom corner. And then this one is 5 inches, so we're going to cut it on the 7-inch mark, which is right here. So I'm just going to take my scissors and cut it. And it doesn't have to be exact. We just obviously don't want our pieces overlapping. Perfect. So there's our 7-inch line. So we have a little bit of extra room. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and turn on our silhouette machine. After you've connected the power cord that comes in the box of your machine, you'll click this power button on the right-hand side. When you do that, the machine will have some lights come on, your panel will show up, and then also the Cameo, or the name of the machine, will show up along the top. You will then open up your machine by gently pulling the cover and then sliding it back, and then we will insert the blade. A fun fact about the Cameo 4 machine is it actually has a blade compartment right here that you can either store your blade when you're not using it, or you can store an extra blade here. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab the blade and close the compartment, and then we can see that this is the auto blade and it has a 1 written on the blade, and that means that it goes in the first carriage right here of the blade holder. So we're going to go ahead and open that carriage by tugging on it softly, and then we're going to insert the blade by pushing down and holding down firmly while we pull up slightly and then click the tab in. And that's how you know that the blade is firmly in place and it's not going to move around when we go to cut. Now we're going to go ahead and load the mat into the machine. And the way that we do this is we're going to line up this edge of the mat with this gray line and arrow after we press the button to insert it. And this sensor right here will read that there's a material there and will load the mat automatically. So you don't have to push the mat in. That way you just get a nice even load, and the mat is pulling the same on all levels. So we're going to go ahead and press this upward arrow, and it will start blinking, and that's how you know the machine is ready. So then we're going to line the edge up with that line and arrow and just hold it for a second. You'll see that it pulls the mat slightly to just feed it in and get a nice even feed all the way across. At this point, we're ready to send this to Silhouette Studio, so we're going to hop back into the software, and I'm going to show you how to set this up to send it to cut. Now we're back in Silhouette Studio, and we're going to set up our mat to cut the pieces for our heat transfer project. So we showed how to lay out the mat, so we have 3 different colors of heat transfer in 3 corners of our mat. We have our black heat transfer down here, we have our dark green over here, and we have our light green up in this corner. Your mat might be set up a little bit differently, so just make sure to reference your mat when you're setting this up. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pay attention to the cut border. If this red line isn't showing up for you along the edge, you just need to come to the page setup panel and click show cut border. And as long as my pieces don't touch the red cut border, I can have them very close to the corner. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag each of my pieces to the corner that it coordinates with on my mat. So my light green pieces are in my upper left-hand corner. My dark green pieces are in my lower right-hand corner, and as you can see, I'm just putting it pretty close to the edge on both sides. And then my wild child black piece is going to go in the lower left-hand corner. So this is all we have to do in the design panel to set up our file to cut. Everything's mirrored, everything's ready to go. So now we're going to come up to the send panel, which is the very right-hand corner of Silhouette Studio. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. You'll see that everything has a red border around it, which means that it's going to cut. If for some reason your design is showing up like this without a red border, you can see the difference between this design and this design. It's just defaulting to a no cut. So you can just select that design by clicking on it and then just click cut, and everything will cut at that point. Now that we have all of our pieces selected to cut, we just need to select the heat transfer material that we're using. So we're going to come up here to material, and then I'm going to begin typing heat transfer. And you'll see that all different kinds of heat transfer pop up, and we're using smooth today. So I'm just going to select that, and then I'm going to use all the default settings. So we don't need to change the blade depth, the force, or the speed. And we don't need to change the action or the tool either, because your Cameo 4 or Portrait 3 models, they all automatically detect the blade that you're using. So we can just leave everything the same, and then we're just going to come down here to the bottom and click send. And something that's awesome about heat transfer is when we select up here with the material that we're using, the heat transfer material, it will ask us if we've mirrored our design, so we don't end up wasting material. We have mirrored our design, so we can just go ahead and click send as is. our machine just finished cutting, and we know that it finished cutting because the blade returned to the home position and the mat rolled out. At this point, I like to make sure that the material cut all the way through before unloading my mat. And the reason that we do that, we check to make sure that it cut, is because if it didn't cut all the way through, if it's not coming out clean, we can send it for another pass in Silhouette Studio and it will cut in the exact same place. If you unload your machine and then check it, you can't load it back in because you don't know that it will for sure cut in the exact same place. It might be a little bit off. So I'm just going to go ahead and check each of these pieces to see. So I'm just going to pull a little piece from the letters, and that came out beautifully. And then I'm going to come down and pull a little piece from the leaves. And you will notice that heat transfer can be really hard to see sometimes when you're weeding it. So I'm just going to pull a little piece of this green out, and that came out beautifully. And then the light green piece up here, I'm not going to pull a piece out of this one. I'm just going to make sure that it pulls up because this one didn't have any pieces in the inside. So it came up good. So now I'm just going to unload it by pressing the downward arrow button. And we're actually not going to be cutting any other cuts with our Silhouette machine, so we can store our Cameo now. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn it off. And then I'm going to just gently tug this cover and pull it down. So we can go ahead and take these pieces off of our mat, just gently pulling them. Since heat transfer has that plastic backing, it's not really a fragile material to use, so you don't need to be super careful, but you obviously don't want to rip it. So we're going to go ahead and store our mat now. By taking our blue cover and just laying that on top of the sticky part. And it doesn't have to be perfect, just make sure that you line it up somewhat, and then we can store our mat. And now we can begin weeding this project. So weeding is the process of taking out the parts of the design that you don't want, so you're just left with your actual design in the end. So let's go ahead and start with this dark green piece. And like I said, this is probably really hard to see. I can barely see it with my own eyes, the lines. So I'm just going to I'm going to come to the corner and try and pull it so we can at least see. There we go. So I'm going to start at the corner and then just pull it really softly. Heat transfer, the more you pull it at an angle, the easier it is to weed. And this is the Silhouette hook tool, which is one of the accessories we sell here at Silhouette. There's a lot of different hook tools you can use though. So if you don't have this exact one, don't worry, but you can purchase this to use for weeding heat transfer and vinyl. So we're just pulling this really gently, kind of at an angle. And you can see that it comes out really, really nicely. I actually believe that heat transfer is the easiest material for beginners because the weeding is so forgiving. It's pretty hard to tear it in a way that you don't want to. Awesome. So now you can finally see our design. And then we just have a couple pieces that didn't quite come with the whole part, the whole big piece. And then you can always look at your design too to see if you're missing any small little pieces that are in there. And I have done that before. I've done a whole heat transfer shirt and then realized that I forgot to take out like a tiny little piece. And this Monstera leaf actually has some really, really small little pieces in it. And I'm just looking at the Silhouette Studio over here on my computer to see these pieces a little bit better. And you can also try and look at it from an angle. I know some people will shine a flashlight on top of it, and that can help you see the little cut lines as well. And one thing I want to mention too is that heat transfer is slightly sticky. It's not so sticky that it's going to stick to your hand or anything like that, but that is one thing that makes it really easy to cut, is that it just stays in place and makes it really easy to take all your little pieces out. We have one more little tiny one right here. Okay, so there's one leaf all done, and then this piece over here just has one small opening. So our green leaves are done now. I'm just going to put those up here to the side. And then these pieces I ended up actually cutting a little bit large. So my design is actually only in this little tiny piece right here. So I'm just going to take some scissors and cut that so I can use this heat transfer again. And I just have a box of scraps of heat transfer in my home office, and anytime I'm doing a project like this that doesn't require like a huge 12-inch piece of heat transfer, I just look through and I can always use some scraps that I have. So now we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to go ahead and start at the corner and then just pull it. Just really softly. Then discard our scraps or our extra material, and then we're just going to take the middle out of the couple letters. And then this font was like a double, it was like an outlined font that was empty on the inside. So just make sure that you're grabbing the big pieces on the inside and not these ones when you're weeding it, because sometimes when you're weeding it can be hard to remember which pieces you're supposed to take out and which ones you're supposed to leave in. So just go ahead and grab the big ones in this case with this font. And now, since these ones are letters, I'm going to show you why it's important to mirror your font. Looks like it stuck a little bit right here. So it's important to mirror because now when we flip it over, you can see this is not backwards, because this is the way we're going to iron it onto our design. I'm just going to show this kind of like as we go so you guys can see it. And then this piece, these green leaves, I'm just going to also cut them down, cut down the piece a little bit. So this one did end up being a little bit bigger than we needed as well. And you can always measure your pieces beforehand. I did not do that, but you can do that too if you don't want to have these scraps. So now we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to start in one of the corners. I guess we didn't start in a corner, but one thing that I like to do is I just like to pull my hook tool through to kind of break that closest piece to the edge, and then I just kind of go around in almost like a circular motion. And I've just found that that works really well for the heat transfer, and it just pulls off really nicely like that. Oh, and this one actually stuck a little tiny bit. So I'm just going to use my hook tool to just kind of break the seal. It just didn't quite want to come out. But still just pull it really gently. And then we're just going to go in that kind of around motion for these two. This one is so hard to see. So yeah, this one didn't cut super great, but you can see that we're still able to use it as long as we just kind of hold down our fingers, hold down the material with our fingers as we're weeding it. Because it still kind of has that line, but it just didn't quite go all the way through. But I was still able to just kind of hold the design down with my finger and then just tug the excess part. And we have this piece done now. So we're going to iron these on in the order that they go. We can iron on both sets of leaves at the same time, and then we'll iron on the wild child on top. So I'm just going to layer these so we can see it a little bit better. And I like to overlap my letters a lot. You don't have to. You can spread the design out a little bit more if you'd want to, but I like to have them all kind of close together and compact. So to iron it on, we just need our shirt that we're using. Like I said, this shirt is pretty small that we're using. And then we're going to need some parchment paper, and then our design and the iron. And this is the easiest, simplest part of the project. So you've done all the hard parts. So I'm just going to leave our iron plugged in, and then I'm going to show you how to iron on the leaves. So as long as our leaves do not overlap the design, it's fine to have our carrier sheets overlapping. So you can see that the green, dark green, is on top of this, and as long as the actual design part isn't overlapping like this, we can iron them on at the same time. So I'm just going to place these dark green leaves kind of centered at the top, just like that. We're actually just going to have them touching, and then we'll have our words right there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our parchment paper and lay it on top of our design, and then take our iron, which we set to a cotton setting, but you can read your specific heat transfer instructions. And I'm just going to press down with the iron for about 10 seconds on each design. And I like to do it a couple different times, do about 5 to 10 seconds, and then lift it up, and then do the other one 5 to 10 seconds. And then we're going to do the top one more time. And you can kind of move it around a little bit like this if you want to, just in place to give it a little bit more pressure. So now I'm going to go ahead and put the iron down, and then pull off my parchment paper and try to peel this back. It looks like it's peeling really good. If it's not peeling, you can always just give it another shot with the iron, and it should come off really nicely. And then we're going to do the same for the top. Just go slow. Some heat transfers are a hot peel, like this one, so you peel it while it's still a little bit hot. And some heat transfers are a cold peel, so you wait until it's completely cooled and then you peel it off. So just make sure to read the instructions for the heat transfer that you've purchased. Now we're going to place the wild child design in the middle. Such a fun shirt. I love this so much. Okay, and then we're going to place our parchment paper. And this step is important for the parchment paper because if you don't use parchment paper, this heat transfer that's exposed is going to adhere to your iron and ruin your iron and just make a really big mess. So make sure you use the parchment paper to place on top and protect your shirt and your iron. And then just repeat the process. So just go ahead and hold it down in the middle for 5 to 10 seconds. And something that I like to do at this point as well, just to seal those top pieces, while my parchment paper is on it, I just like to move my iron a little bit and just hit it with the iron one more time like this. Then we're going to go ahead and check this to see if it's stuck. Looks like it's so this one doesn't quite want to come off yet. So I'm going to go ahead and iron it one more time. As long as you're using the parchment paper, it's pretty hard to burn either the material that you're adhering to or the heat transfer material itself. If you do put your iron straight on the shirt, it will burn. So now it looks like it's peeling pretty good. And sometimes you just need to come from different angles too. And it is hot, so be cautious of that when you're peeling your heat transfer. Just gonna hit that middle again. We're just really gonna press it down and put some pressure on it. I'm going to go ahead and cut my portion that is coming off. And sometimes parts of projects like this kind of go like this. We'd rather do it right and do it a couple times than do it wrong and just rip it off and then ruin the shirt, right? So I'm just going to cut this just so it's easier for me to reach those pieces that I need to iron a little bit more. Just kind of do some little circles to give it some more pressure. Okay. Now it's peeling. Oh, we lost our I. Dot to our I. Dots to letters always seem to be a little bit difficult. They're easy to lose. So we were able to peel everything off. Now I'm going to just place this on top and iron over everything one more time from this side. And this just seals the design, seals everything nice onto the shirt. And then we can just peel this off, and you can see that everything is just nice and smooth on there now. Thank you so much for joining us in today's class. This project turned out so fun. We hope that you enjoy creating all of your heat transfer projects in the future, and make sure to tune in into all of our other craft along videos to learn more important skills with your new Silhouette machine.